this journey together, and I want to make sure that we're going to be getting some valuable videos and blog updates to you as we approach the launch of Introducing Success. So today what I wanted to do was to talk to you about something that I spent a long time with one of my business partners, Andre Voskill, discussing and evaluating, and that is, when you're an entrepreneur, you have a business and you need to raise capital, how do you value your business? And it's an area where we see a series of very common mistakes. So let me tell you, one of the most important areas to focus on is to actually establish the value based on fact and science, not that. Okay? And that's often what we see. In fact, I wrote a blog, and there's a link to the blog at the bottom here, and it talks about a situation where I was talking to an entrepreneur who was trying to convince us to put money into his business. And so we walked through the business plan and said, how much is it worth? And he said $5 million. And I said, well, that's a very nice round number. Where did that valuation come from? And he said, well, my company's very definitely worth $5 million. And I said, well, it may well be, but how did you arrive at that number? Is it because you have intellectual protocol, IP, that is worth some money? Is it because you built a database? Is it because you have pre-sales and you're ready to execute on your project? How did you create that value? Was it the last investor in the door? Help me understand where the value came from. Well, the truth is there was no value other than eventually, when pressed, he said that a friend who's very good at this told him his company's worth that much. His friend was probably the last investor, I'm guessing, and this is a problem that's endemic in capitalizing a young company, because the founder may have an inflated appraisal of his business, and if he's lucky enough to convince a few investors to jump on board, they likely are forced to have an inflated value of the business because they want to see a return on their stock. So until you get somebody a bit more sophisticated in the system who says, this company isn't worth this much, you actually kill your opportunity to grow your business before you've even started. As you can imagine, it's like a snowball that's rolling very quickly. So I said to the guy on this phone call, I'm out, I don't want to do anything with you, and I can't see the value. And he argued and defended his value a little bit, and then we politely wished each other good fortunes and went on our ways. It surprised me the next day when he called me back and said, hey, you know what, I've thought about your advice, and I agree, my company isn't worth 5 million, it's actually worth 2.5 million, which of course is another very interesting round number. In fact, it's exactly half the value that the company was the day before, according to the founder. And so I pressed on that question and said, how do you arrive at that value? And again, he had no answers, which means I'm dealing with a very unsophisticated entrepreneur at that point who has no ability to rationalize their value. It's a very, very important area of focus for you as an entrepreneur, because at some point you will need capital. Whether you've got a new startup or whether you've got a company that you're about to expand and you're going to the capital markets, you need to understand why your company has value. And if you can't do that, when you're talking to venture capitalists or private capital, they will not swallow your story that you believe your company is worth that much just because. The common misperception is we look at what our company will become and we start to tell people it's worth this much when I get here. That means nothing because you're not there yet. You can only value your company on where it is today. The big stock market collapse of 2007, 2008 was primarily because the banks were overinflating real estate. We were walking into the banks and saying, I have a resort, when it's built it's going to be worth $25 million, so I'd like to buy borrow 20 million. And the bank said yes, and yet the only thing the developer might have had was a piece of dirt that was worth virtually nothing. And as it happened, it turns out that there was default on the loans, that the resorts were never built, that we were packaging up toxic assets, and away we go. We're into a vicious cycle of poor financing decisions. So anyway, that's a quick tip for today. We're going to cover this topic a lot more inside Introducing Success, because as an entrepreneur, it's critical for you to understand some of this stuff. And I'm by no means an expert in this area at all, but I'm going to bring in some experts to talk to you and share with you what they look for. One of the guys that we'll talk to is Andre Voskill. He's actually a certified family office manager. That is a very, very rare certification in the world. There aren't very many of those people, and that means that he has the ability to manage very large sums of money for wealthy individuals, and he guides them on their alternative investments or their private investments, their direct investments, and he gives them advice. Well, the advice he gives them is the same advice you as an entrepreneur should be listening to, because that might be one of the places you go for your money. Hope you enjoyed it. You know what? Follow the link to the blog down below. Don't forget to like the Facebook page. And watch out, we're going to be creating a Facebook group, a private group. You'll get invited if you're a part of this Facebook page. In that group, we're going to start sharing these videos very frequently, as well as some Facebook Live sessions. You're going to love it. You're going to be able to watch some of the things that we do as we travel around the world in business. You're going to see our mistakes as well as our successes. And we're all going to learn from that. It's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to it.